Learning objectives. After completing this module, learners will be able to define the reasons why early hunter-gatherers used to move one place to another. List different types of tools made of stones and their usage. Describe the processes for creating the stone tools. Explain how the primitive men began to control the fire. Explain how the change in climate helped the early men to grow the crops in the fields. Distinguish how different ages and dates were named upon the usage of the tools in those periods. Hunter-gatherers. Who was hunter-gatherers? In hunter-gatherer cultures, in which human beings used to obtain their food by hunting, fishing, scavenging and gathering wild plants and other edibles. They mainly hunted wild animals, caught fish and birds, and collected several varieties of fruits, seeds, nuts, leaves, eggs and stalks too. None of these works was simple to do. The ancient people were so alert and smart to hunt the wild animals and find the fruits and seeds which were not poisonous. Why hunter-gatherers used to move to places? Hunter-gatherers used to move from one place to another for several reasons. They are: 1. As like as animals, the ancient men had to move the place while they followed the animals for their prey. 2. Every plants do not bear fruit in same season, so the ancient group moved places to find different kind of fruits from season to season. 3. During dry seasons, the early human tried to move the places where the water source will be available. Which rivers are not perennial, they will dry up during summer and winter. The tools they discovered. Many types of tools were created by the ancient men. There were different requirements like to chop the meat, fruit and roots, scrape the bark from trees and hides from the dead animals. Later, many tools were created by attaching the handles, like in spear and arrows. Other tools were used to chop the firewood, to dig the ground to collect edible roots, and even to stitch clothes of animal hides. Cave dwellers. A place to take the shelter. Many natural caves have been found where the early human took the shelter. Firstly, it was to take the shelter during rain, cold winter, and from wild animals too. Early men used to live on those caves which are situated along the mountain range or hilly terrains. Many cave sites were found where different blocks of stones were found. There it is believed that the early men used to create their tools. These are called factory sites. In habitation come factory sites. The early men used to live also. There many blocks have been found which were discarded by the early users as those were not perfect. Tool making. The process of making different tools was mainly of two types. The first process was stone to stone. The pebble, which was called core, was struck by the hammer stone in order to strike off the flakes from the pebble. After that, the core obtained the required shape. In another process, the hammer stone was used to give the pressure on the core to remove the flakes. Discovery of fire. The experts believe that numerous sites showed that the early ancestors of human beings controlled fire well over 1 million years ago. Evidence at some of the sites indicates that the use of fire could date back almost 2 million years. In addition to helping ancient ancestors stay warm and keep predators away, controlling fire allowed them to begin to cook meats and vegetables. Different stone ages. Changes in environment. Around 12,000 years ago, a phenomenal change was occurred in environment. Gradual increase in temperature resulted many grasslands to be developed. More animals consequently were attracted to those grasslands. It helped the ancient men to learn more about those animals. From this time, they started to think to rear those animals as well. Later, the early men learned to cultivate the crops and grains when they noticed naturally grown grains of wheat, barley, and rice in abundance. Tools determined the dates. The Paleolithic age started from 2 million years ago and lasted till 12,000 years ago. In Latin, paleo means old and lithos means the stone. It had the subdivisions like lower, middle and upper ages. The usable tools created from stones and the gradual advancement in those tools indicated the changes of these ages. The Mesolithic age was between 12,000 years ago to 10,000 years ago. In this period, we could see that the people started to create the handles made of bones or woods for their own stone tools. The stones also got tinier. The Neolithic age started 10,000 years ago. Cave painting. The hunter-gatherers painted many pictures on the wall of the caves. They used rich mineral colors which are still very bright on the cave walls. They usually painted different wild animals and the scene of hunting on the walls. In our country, in the Hunski situated in Karnataka, many cave paintings were found. Summary. Let us summarize what we have learned. The hunter-gatherers were moving from one place to another for their livelihood. Different kinds of tools of stones were used to do different type of works. Primarily, ancient men created their tools through two ways. One is stone to stone and the second one is hammering or giving pressure. Early men started to control the fire and it changed their food habit too. The change in the environment helped to grow more grasslands and thus primitive men started to rear the animals. Upon the usage of different tools created and used by the men, the prehistoric dates were named.